Get ourselves primed and pumped. How we doing? Okay, Labor Day. It is the 6th of September, officially Labor Day in the United States of America. And Labor Day has been celebrated all around the world from a lot of different countries for a lot of different reasons. Here in America, why do we celebrate Labor Day? I was looking at WBR, let me just make sure I have this right, WBUR. Great radio station out of Boston. But the first the first Labor Day celebration was in 1882. It became a federal holiday in 1894. Obviously, women led the movement, which was created after Labor Day. The Department of Labor was actually in the United States, was created after Labor Day. A little push there. The day is great off because why do we really celebrate Labor Day? Long weekends, a 40-hour week, exploitation and the non-exploitation of workers. That being said, tonight I just want to really comment about the influx of immigrants and the particularly in Worcester, through the Industrial Revolution through Worcester, which began in the 1825 and 1828, and a large number of immigrants fled Europe and didn't necessarily come to Worcester like, hey, we got to go to Worcester. They ended up in Worcester, a lot of immigrants from Europe particularly, and Canada as well. They ended up in New York, they ended up in, they first landed in the shorelines of America and made their way inland. And Worcester was very fortunate to have a good river. It didn't have, again, I've said this before, not to be repetitious, but we didn't have this big river going through it like the barons of Boston that built the city of Lowell. And look at it now, by the way. Worcester was a place it's a middle class city that America needed in the 1800s. It was a place that the aristocracy, obviously, just like much of Massachusetts back in the day. If you think about early Worcester, it was primarily governed by monopolized, if you will, however you want to say it, but under the advisement, if you will, from the Chandler families and the Payne families. Okay, so aristocracy, money, but when the Blackstone Canal opened up, it really spawned entrepreneurship. And it just wasn't a place to come and, Worcester was not just a place to come in and work. It was, but it was also a place for opportunity. And that's where, the middle class of the 1800s and the 1900s, most of your three-deckers, by the way, they call them tenements, were built around the urban core, and that's where most of the industry was settled in Worcester. A lot of folks came here to not just live here, but to use the opportunities of an income, a structured work week, right? Labor Day, if you will, 40-hour structure this, and it encouraged entrepreneurship. And it was a middle-class city that America needs. Everybody, the country back then needed, and maybe still needs, a city that can accommodate the working class, if you will, and people who want to use it as a platform to move ahead. And the three-deckers in Worcester, by the way, were built around its labor force. And it was an economically, and architecturally, if you will, smart way to use the land and create density. And most folks worked in the mills. And no, most of those folks were not, uh, just immigrants, whether they're from Ireland, whether they were Jewish heritage, Polish heritage, 70 plus ethnic groups that live in Worcester for a city of 200,000 people, by the way. It encouraged people to come here, work, but it did not discourage you if you had that entrepreneurial spirit to create and invent Washburn and Moen. Washburn came from Millbury. Check the Worcester Historical Society. I'll link up that site, by the way, to this article, to this video. But he came here from Millbury with nothing. Nothing. Okay? And became one of the nation's, became the nation's leader in wire manufacturing, and sold his Washburn. Is it Ichabod? I'll look back on that. You can look down the Coe's company, by the way, down by the WPI. WPI, very huge in forging ahead the entrepreneurial spirit in manufacturing in Worcester. We're hoping a lot of people that go to WPI understand Worcester's history. They probably don't, but I digress. But Washburn, he came here with nothing from Millbury. Nothing. Nothing. Okay, and back then you had to have people that actually vouched for your character. If you were an immigrant, you had to vouch for your character. I can vouch for his character. Okay? If you're an immigrant before 1945, much different after Ellis Island, by the way, the war-torn Europe. But as America grew, it relied on all kinds of labor and ingenuity. And before you know it, it became quite a powerhouse in manufacturing, and so in the 1800s, Worcester becomes a major manufacturing city. And the middle class actually builds Worcester. It's not the other way around. The contribution of the middle class to the local economy built more economies and layered the economy. And those folks that worked in the middle class, because the three-decker housing was segue housing. It wasn't to be permanent housing. And I will say this, I'll ask this, is Worcester still the gateway city it was 100 years ago? Or are people just coming here because, the rent is cheap or whatever? It's not cheap anymore. And a lot of these three-deckers that were built between, 1880 and 1930 are getting old. I drive around Worcester, I say, how long are these neighborhoods actually going to be here? And what is the economy going to look like moving ahead? It is not a canal. It is not the freight trains that came into Worcester in 1848, that allowed the cargo industry to explode, export and import. By the 1960s, manufacturing, declines. It moves to, America, not just Worcester, moves to an educational format where you needed some type of a college degree or higher education, even a high school diploma. 1800s, education was secondary to work. It just was. And there was a small few who crawled off those production lines and made their mark. And Worcester always encouraged that. 1960s in Worcester saw a change, like every city did. Manufacturing declines. Industry moves to outside the urban core to manufacturing sites, blocks, if you will, complexes. And then the city starts to decline. Okay, you have the manufacturing going away. People are living downtown, they're gone, following the jobs. 1968 through 1971, Plumley Village comes in. That was Worcester's answer to the Laurel Clayton area. Was the most poor, quote unquote, and Negro population in 1970. 1971, Worcester was the third largest city in Worcester with a population of about 150 folk. You know, I'm only using that word Negro because that was the word that was used to identify this. I cite this from a YouTube channel, the development of Plumley Village. By the way, Plumley Village, if you didn't know, Mr. Plumley was the chair of the board of directors for Statewide Mutual Insurance Company that was largely responsible for the redevelopment of the Laurel Clayton section, which is now Plumley Village, the post office, used to be where the Worcester County Jail was, blah, blah, blah. 1970, the Worcester Center Galleria opens. Okay, so now there's shopping, there's urban revitalization, Worcester Housing Authority is right in there. And the Galleria lasts probably for 20 years. 20 years isn't that long, you guys. Okay? After the 1990s, the Galleria is gone. Like, I need some screen here, man. Give me some screen. Give me some sugar. Anyway, here we go. It's just for lighting. But I digress. But there were tough times between the 1990s. The Galleria was going to close, and then actress Judith Light, remember her? We're going to, redevelop the mall. We're going to bring all these people from all around into Saks Fifth Ave and all these. And I just said this before, such a low ego Worcester had. Forgot where it came from. It has forgotten where it came from sometimes. And to now we have, we ran in those tough times. And we started back in the 1990s with nice infrastructure. We got rid of the Fine Arts Theater. All the theaters downtown that became porn theaters, by the way. And now look at us, are we on the right track right now? We have residential housing, Front Street's open again. The mall is gone. You talk to people 20 years ago, it's like talking to someone like, do you remember where you were on 9/11? I mean, it's 20, 21 years plus removed. People move on so quickly. But the things we hold, in our memories, we hold on to them. And I remember Worcester. I remember the core of Worcester. And I will say that it's really important to have a core hub of any city, right? And I just want to make sure we're on the right track. We've redeveloped downtown, continually redeveloping it. There's some things that I'm seeing that I'm still disappointed with. The retail concept is, I don't know where that is. All the cosmetic infrastructure is being done. We have people living downtown. But if I live on the 13th floor of, whatever it is, Front Street, and some of those condos, and I need a loaf of bread, where am I going? I mean, there's none of the boutiques that are supporting the downtown. I get it, we're behind on that. There's still some things that we need to work on. Hopefully, the density of people living downtown creates the demand for retail, even for a loaf of bread, by the way. I digress. Worcester is, and should always be, a manufacturing entity. That's where its history lies. And I think we should still continue to develop jobs that fit everyone, not just the big box stores coming in and, retail jobs that, whatever. Let's continue the entrepreneurial spirit that has always been Worcester, that can create jobs where people necessarily do not need everybody nowadays should have a high school diploma, by the way. That should always be made affordable. If you haven't finished your high school diploma, there's plenty of places to get it. I know them. Give me a call. All right. Well, you may not know my number, but you know what I mean. So there are some demands where the United States is trying to keep up with the global economy right now. And but where Worcester came from, it's canal in 1825, opened in 1828, the construction of Mechanics Hall, all these things. That's what makes a community great, by the way. Encouraging whomever lives there, to incentivize the reason for them to contribute to their community. All right. A lot of the three deckers that are in Worcester right now, I don't know how many of those are owned locally by local folks. But let's just keep encouraging Worcester to grow on a grassroots level, right? That's not such a bad thing. I mean, I don't think so. So, anyway, I'm going to let you guys go, and I'll catch you on. I'll catch you on the next cast. Thanks a lot. Take care, everybody. All right, stay safe this week.